The regular meeting of council for October 15th to order at 3 p.m. Jody?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Please note that council meetings are streamed live and recorded on YouTube. Attendees acknowledge that in accordance with Section 17(2)(g) of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, names, addresses, and other details provided when speaking at a council meeting will be publicly shared. Should you have any questions related to the collection or disclosure of personal information, please contact the Legislative and Advisory Services Division for the Town of High River by sending an email to foip@highriver.ca. That is FOIP@highriver.ca.
Thanks, Jody. Adoption of the agenda. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Barton. The council adopt the agenda for this regular meeting October 15th as presented.
You have a motion, Mayor?
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Consent agendas from the September 23rd regular council meeting and the October 2nd special meeting of council. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that an omnibus motion adopts the two meetings in accordance with the council's procedure bylaw.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Okay, into the public comment section. So the first, we have two of these in every meeting. So the first one for today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to address Maureen Moncrief's questions that were provided at the last council meeting. And then anybody else, it'll take me a bit to get through this. So if anybody else has questions, then we will do all of those at the second. But I just want to remind you, Maureen, that this isn't. We're not going to get into a big debate or anything. I'm going to answer your questions, and we'll move on from there. And if you have anything else, we can do it at the end of the meeting. So I have the piece that you sent the last meeting, September 23rd. So first question was on a parking assessment report, and was there any parking assessment report done? No, there was not any parking assessment report done by the previous council, and reason being is because the previous council understood that should we run into parking issues, we do have the second ball diamond that can be removed to drastically increase parking, although that ball diamond would need to be relocated into another location. The pool bylaw, how can the pool bylaw be passed above the pool expansion? The pool financing, so your question was surrounding, how the line items of the budget. So the pool financing currently is being discussed into the 2025 budget. That those of you that were there this morning heard some of those conversations that I presented there. Conditions of the borrowing bylaw under the MGA that must be reflected in a budget. Well, you don't put that in until so you got to go through that borrowing bylaw process, and then you have to actually apply to the government for that. So we were just not there yet. Is this a debenture? Yes, it would have been a government debenture directly through the provincial government, as most of our borrowing is done. What was the set rate being calculated at? Well, that was the moving piece that we were being very patient on, knowing the government or the Bank of Canada was lowering interest rates, which was largely in part why we were dragging things out a bit, hoping that would lower the interest rate. But there's a couple of things in play for those that are borrowing money from the government now, because Danielle Smith has announced that they're going back to the old 2021 rates and how municipalities can borrow funds from them. But at the time when we were doing our when the finance was doing their calculations, we were running at about 5.62. Is this a mortgage? No, it is absolutely not a mortgage of any kind. It's government borrowing between the municipality and the provincial government. The actual interest rate not reflected in the bylaw, because that's a moving piece. What are the people of this town going to go without because of this council's decision to go into debt with this pool expansion on the backs of the taxpayers of this town? The answer is nothing. Normal operations and capital commitments will continue to be made. Now, Section 254. I want to thank you for bringing this forward to us, because immediately our CFO looked into this. Where's the flow chart? And I explained this on Facebook, but there's the flow chart that the government of Alberta provides on how to go through all your borrowing bylaw procedures, and in nowhere in this is it mentioned Section 254, but regardless, Section 254 is absolutely in the MGA, and it is a piece that we absolutely did miss. So immediately the next morning, so that Monday meeting that you advised us of that, our CFO sent an email to Municipal Affairs the very next morning and advised them that, yes, we have realized that there's a miss here. From there, I met with a team of our staff as well as our law firm to discuss what that meant, and then we discussed it with council, and then we sent a letter out to Municipal Affairs advising them that, yes, this is a mistake that we have made, and an oversight, and that we're waiting for their response should they wish to have any advice for us as to how to proceed or not proceed. That, to this date, I can't remember when that was sent out to them, but we have had no communication back from Municipal Affairs at this time. Just give me a second. From what we can read, you've already awarded contracts for the various aspects of construction. Yes, that is correct, as we did not want to miss another construction season. And then we get into your questions again. I've answered this a number of times, but I will do it again, concerning the referendum. And after watching some of the comments on the Facebook posts that we all saw, I want to clarify what the actual results of that referendum were. So in total, 4,078 people voted on that referendum. Of that, 2,212 voted no, and 1,866 voted yes, which results in a 54-46 split. Not 70%, as some were saying on Facebook. Yep. So in the end, 346 people were the amount that swayed the vote. So I'll explain, how council got there to even do the referendum in the first place. Previous council discussed this, and they all decided on, let's do a referendum during the election, and they decided to do it non-binding. And the reason why it was decided on non-binding is because we knew we had at a bare minimum, we had 4 new councillors coming on. So regardless of how the referendum went, they didn't want to handcuff the new councillors. 4 new councillors, possibly for a new mayor, it could have been a whole new council. So they didn't want to bind anybody to that, which is another reason why I disagree with holding a referendum like this during an election, because you have new people coming on board that need to get educated and to be able to make the proper decisions. So, but regardless, we had back in 2018, we went through a very large study with Gibbs Gage architects and consultants for rec centers, And that's what the feasibility study, that's what guided the previous council into going towards saying that, yes, the most economical and the piece that, you know, what we need in this town, not what we want, not what we dream about. This is the direction that we wish to go. And just to be clear, like to build a full new facility in the Northwest, which is still a dream of a lot of people in this town, the Seton Rec Center in Calgary, which is similar to what people are asking for, it's a little bit bigger, but the Seton Rec Center was $130 million. So you would be looking at a new standalone facility in the Northwest. You'd be looking at a bare minimum of $100 million if you were to build a full service facility. The standalone pool, we looked at that and where we could put it. The biggest problem with that is if we're putting just a pool somewhere, you would have to have it somewhere that's already serviced. Because if you're putting it on bare land that's unserviced, the costs go through the roof. You'd be another $3 to $6 million alone just to try to put water and sewer servicing to it. It's not cheap to do that stuff. So the standalone pool, if we were going that route, we looked at putting it between Charles Clark and the library, because there's servicing there and it would have been the cheapest way to do that. But it also didn't make any sense to do that because your operational costs go through the roof when you have one entity standing alone on its own. The efficiencies on these rec centers come from having them all under basically one roof, where you can utilize the efficiency of staff. So then the election happened, and we had 4 new councillors come on board. They took a number of months going through that study and lots of discussions and educating them. Not one of them was convinced one way or another when they got to the table after the election. But they educated themselves and understood that if we were going to do this, then the expansion was absolutely the right direction to do that. So for myself, throughout the election, I was very open. I had a whole page on my website and everything. I spoke about it at the forum. I spoke about it everywhere I went, that I was in full support of this expansion. And that's why I continued to support it. When I saw the results of the referendum being so close to a 50-50 split, it was not a deciding factor for me to just say no based on that, because I had told people that I was going to support this expansion. So that's why I continued on with it. So that's my answers to questions. If there's councillors that want to share any other comments to Maureen's questions that she gave us, then we can take a few minutes and go through that as well. But
From the minister on section 254?
no.
No? So why has the construction not been stopped?
Because we're not funding it through a borrowing at this time.
Oh, so now you're taking the borrowing bylaw off the table?
That's council's decision. We have Carol and Bonnie are bringing a petition to us at the next council meeting, and so we'll go through that process at that time.
So you're going to deal with the borrowing bylaw at the next council meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
That's council's decision, but yeah, we won't do anything until we see the results and have the petitioners present their results of the petition. So.
Okay, and also, have you got the authorization letters from the province regarding the MSI and the LGFF grants? Have you got the approval letters?
Pardon me?
Have you got the approval letters for them?
I can't answer that, Chris.
Those applications have been made, and all indications are that they will be supported.
So you haven't actually got the approval letter as of yet?
Not yet.
So you're digging this pool without any funding in place? other than the million from the sale of the homes?
The MSI and the LGFF funding is allocated to us, and it's up to us how we allocate it and how we use it. We have to inform the province through a letter of intent, basically, to ask to make sure that they will support that endeavor. But all indications are that they are going to support it. And that's being made. I haven't had an update recently, but that was made when we first started the project back in July.
So you haven't really gotten written approval from the province?
It is funding that we are allowed to use and allocate to projects. That's as clear and concise as I can be.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Marie. Any other questions from council? Comments? See none, hear none. Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to address a few things.
Sorry, ma'am. I'm going to, there's a second comment section. We're just going to go through this piece now because I want to get our regular business to take, yeah.
I have one comment to make, and that is, as a new resident of this town,
Yeah.
I voted in this.
I just, hang on, we got to do this properly. So is that mic on again? I need you just to sit
Sorry.
and give us your name.
My
et
name
cetera.
is Risa Prock. I live at 305 11th Avenue Southwest.
Okay.
When I moved here in 2019, middle of the year, I saw that there was a referendum being held, and as a very seasoned voter, I went and did my civic duty and voting at that referendum. Not once did I ever see anything that said it was a non-binding decision that was being made. Not once. So I want to say that though this council may have thought that they educated the people adequately in the way that that referendum was going to go, and why would you hold a non-binding referendum, spend money that's not going to go anywhere from that decision, even though the voters, more than 300 of us, said we don't want the pool. So that's one question I have, and the other is, it's a comment. What I've noticed living here subsequently, that I don't see, even though I watch the website from the town council, I get all your emails, I don't see a lot of effort to really tell people your intent. I know you think you've done it, but I think you need to do a lot more work in the way of communicating with the public in this town. Because evidently, from what the comments were made on your website, the Facebook website, you can see that people were not happy. Even the residents who've been here for years did not know it was going to be a non-binding. They thought no meant no, and that's how they voted. So I'm here not to chastise, but to encourage that you make it your better effort to be in communication with the residents of this town. I don't hear anything from the councillors. I've sat through meetings here and I've watched you, and you barely look like you're present. And I don't mean to be rude. I say it with all due respect. I know how hard you work otherwise. But when you come into a meeting like this where you're trying to inform people and you want people to come onto your side and listen what you have to say, you have to do the greater part of the work. We're all busy, as you know. And we need to hear from you individually. I don't know which councillor represents me, if there is such a thing in this town. So if there isn't, you need to take it and make it your business to take a portion of this town and communicate to us. That's my suggestion to you, so that people can actually say they heard from you. I've asked people, have you heard from the councillors? Nope, not a word. Only Jenny. She's the only one. And from Michael. That's it. So you can say I'm an ignorant townsperson, whatever you want to think. I tend to get engaged in this because it's my town now. It's where I live. And what happens here, I consider to be part of my business as a civic duty. And I think a lot of people who are sitting here in this meeting feel the same way, although I don't plan to speak on their behalf. But I really do encourage you to do more, to educate and communicate. It's essential. We cannot assume anything anymore. There's too much happening and it's too chaotic. And it's your duty as elected representatives of this town to speak about what's going on, more than just to each other, to us. Please do that. I'll be a lot happier, I can tell you. Thank you. Thank you for your attention.
And one piece that I couldn't agree with you more on is holding a non-binding referendum.
Well, I expressed my opinion.
I would never ever do that again, because if it's especially on projects like this that are extremely complicated, to drill it down into a yes or no question in one foul swoop, it's, you know, I put it on my website and tried to give enough information, and still, you know, some people got it, some people didn't agree with it, but most people, I don't think, saw what my true opinions were unless they came to the forum or went to my website. But a lot of the voters don't do that. So, but at the same time, holding that referendum during an election, I would never ever do again. And having a referendum that is non-binding, would never ever do it again. There's no point in holding a referendum. The council's elected. Every person up here, we're all community people that stick our hand up for these positions, and the number one position you are putting yourself into is decision making, period. And that's a big load that I don't think a lot of people, I can guarantee you, I didn't. When I first ran that first year, I had no idea the weight of what that is. But that is what the position is making decisions. And you have to understand that you are absolutely making decisions that affect people's lives. And it's a huge responsibility. It's not a voluntary position that I'm going to be the voice of the people and all this kind of stuff. It's impossible. You can't do that, because I've talked about this before. Who are the people? Is it the person that agrees with you or the person that doesn't agree with you on every issue? So whoever is in these positions has the weight and has the responsibility to make the decision for what they feel is the best direction forward for our community. That's it.
And they don't represent the community.
Pardon me?
They don't.
What do you mean?
Here's the thing. Look, I've sat on councils in Edmonton that were created by all the stakeholders in Old Strathcona. And we sat on that council for over 2 years and did land use studies and did all kinds of things. And it was only because we had the participation of all the stakeholders that the decisions that were made, which were all voluntary for our community, were agreed upon. We did not do it without the agreement. I know there are people who are going to have divergent positions on every single minute thing. The problem, see, how can you make a decision if you don't know you absolutely represent the people's will? How do you find out what that is? Exactly. You ask them for their input. You ask them to tell you. You go out and you search for it, like Jenny did. You have to do those things, because otherwise you're making decisions that are personal.
And that's exactly what elections are for.
Well, right? If I knew that was the case, I would never vote. And I have been voting since I was old enough to do it, and I've worked as an electoral official ever since 1974.
We're talking as though nothing has ever went out to the community on this project. We've had open houses dating back to 2018. Carol, you were part of it with on council back then. Like, we're going back that far to open houses, and then we did another one, within the last year or two at the rec center. So there's been a lot. But communication is very difficult. It's very difficult.
You want to hear from the people. You need to tell them that.
Yep.
When you make an invitation for a coffee, you tell them what you want to hear from.
Well,
I've gone out to them, and there are the people sitting there from the council, one or two people. They're having conversations with each other. They're not talking to me. When I came and expressed my opinion, I got an argument from a councillor instead of, that's very interesting, I'll take it back to council.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not seen as information that's valuable because it disagreed with that individual. It's taken to be a defensive position that they have to defend against, instead of
Right.
thinking, here is a citizen who came out to this coffee event, took their time out, came out and has come with some ideas and an opinion, and you're not willing to listen to it. You're not willing to even bring it back to council.
I don't
can't
think
be
that. I
trusted to
don't
bring
think
it
you
back
can.
to council
I'm
because
not.
it never
I don't think you
arrives
can
back.
say that nothing ever comes back to council,
Well-
because every time there's a coffee with council, we all talk about what we heard. We all do. We all share what we heard and the different conversations that we had. That coffee with council is a great thing that Councillor Smith initiated when she started. That's wide open to the public to come and have an easy chat, forum, relaxed, not formal, everything else, right? But we all talk about those coffee with councils and anything else we've heard during the 2 weeks between meetings. So
We can't be the only town struggling with these kinds of challenges.
They
I'm
all
sure
do.
they're going on everywhere, and I'm sure there are other towns who are succeeding because they found other ways, and they're not thinking in the box, but going out of it to look for different options. And I just want to encourage you to do that.
Appreciate it.
As a person who thinks out of the box myself, I'm not standing for council, by the way. I'm not interested in that. I've never stood for election because I knew what I'd be getting into, and I had other responsibilities. And I weighed them out and saw which was more important to me. But, I still have my observations. I still certainly have lots of opinions. I'm very opinionated. But I do want to encourage you people to find other ways. Be creative. Find other ways to communicate with us. A sheet of paper, a website is just a one-dimensional thing. It doesn't speak to me about who you are, what your motives are, why you're doing this job, how important it is to our community. I had talked to a neighbor. I said, "Did you sign the petition?" She said, "No, it's very important that we support the pool." Well, there I heard it. If I were a councillor, then I would have taken that into my bag and brought it back and said, there are people here who don't want to support, and then there are X number of people who want to. That's what I've learned. So I'm learning from getting involved as a citizen. I didn't know about the petition until someone showed up at my door. I thought I voted no. I was shocked when I found out it was a non-binding decision. I thought, why would this town waste the money, time, and effort and tell people who came out and voted that their vote meant nothing?
Yep.
How can you encourage people to come out to vote when it's important if you do that on a referendum that you claim later is non-binding? You cannot get it both ways. I've done door knocking and I've taken enumeration for the city of Edmonton and Toronto and so on. Over the years, since 1974, I've been involved in the elections on every level, municipal and provincial and federal. And I've worked in the elections and I've talked to people all the time. I had to encourage people to get out to vote. They said, oh, they're not going to do anything. It's not going to make a bit of difference. And that's what I got over and over. And if I took the time to talk to them about how important their vote was, then maybe I could sway a few, and I have. You cannot do this to people, especially because when they come out, it's meaningful. And I'm passionate about that, as you can see. And you need to be passionate about it too, and not make faces about it. Thank you very much.
I agree with you.
Thank you.
Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. And I'm just going to take this opportunity, I guess, to share a little bit of my thoughts. Firstly, I want to thank those who do come forward to council, or those who actually seek us out and have conversations with us. To me, it is really important, and I appreciate those conversations because I do like to hear both sides. I get you're passionate here on the fact that that referendum said no. But as you had said, there are people who want this pool as well. And in having those conversations, I didn't go door knocking. Well, actually, I did do a little door knocking, but having conversations with people. And in our town, all the people, including those who couldn't or didn't vote, regardless, those are that information that mattered to me. That was hearing both sides of the story, hearing what was and what wasn't important and why, and hearing some of the reasons why people voted one way or the other, but also educating myself. To me, that was the big one. Reading through documents like that, right? Understanding. I was definitely for let's build a new facility. I was asked the hard questions. I debated that backwards, forwards. That was my stance when I started. But we're a small town, and we can't afford that. We don't even have the borrowing capacity to build a new facility. But that doesn't mean one day we wouldn't be able to, right? With proper planning, educating ourselves and figuring out that. But that doesn't mean we don't stop moving forward. This is something that our town needs. Recreation is important. There are many studies that will tell you that, not only for the growing of our town, but the people of our town. So my decision was based on talking to people, hearing what's important, reading, educating myself. Now, I agree I'm not the all-knower of municipal leadership and the MGA and the oversight on Section 254, definitely. I apologize. That was missed by many people in that. And the consequences of that we will deal with as they come forward. But I was elected to continue being that person, to educate myself, to understand what the needs are. And in doing so, my decision was to go forward with the pool expansion. And I still believe that for me and what I learned in talking to the people that I talked to, that it was the right decision. Thank you.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. This pool discussion goes back a lot further than you recall. This goes back to 2010. I was here at council meetings and we were having a discussion about the aquatics and the need for a better facility in High River. So it's been around for a long, long time. We've been talking about it for a long, long time. Previous council was very, very clear on that referendum and that it was non-binding. We communicated it over and over and over again. Every time we talked about it, it was non-binding. Regardless of that, a new council came forward, or there was an election held, and during that election, a number of people were asked what their position were on the pool and what they were going to do, and blah, all those general questions, what our positions were on various items. And we were elected. And like Craig says, once you're elected to make decisions. And sometimes those decisions are tough, really tough. Sometimes they're, kind of fun to make. I don't make any decisions based on Facebook or Facebook posts or how people attack us on Facebook. I totally don't pay any attention to that garbage. If you want to talk to me, my phone number is all over the website. People can come to my house. I'll talk to them all the time. I talk to people in the community all the time. So don't say I don't talk to people, that I don't listen to what people say. I hear it all the time. That's what a big part of our job are. This little meeting that we have every second Monday for a couple hours, that's just a tiny, tiny part of what being on council is about. Being on council is being available. When I'm in the grocery store and somebody comes up and wants to talk about the pool while I'm trying to find a decent steak, right? That's what it's about. And every one of us are members of this community. Every single person sitting at this table is a member of this community. And we all made the decision to go ahead with this pool expansion. Somebody said, or I heard somebody say, compare us to other successful towns. This town, High River, is one of the most successful towns in the province, in Canada. People love to live here. People are lining up to buy houses in this town. They're lining up. Houses are selling in 3 or 4 days, above asking prices. Is that a terrible place to live? I mean, look at your downtown. Have you seen downtowns like that anywhere else in the province? Not that I have, and I travel all over the province all the time. So I really get passionate about this. This is High River. I've been in this town. I've been involved in council since 2010, actually on council in 2010. I've been involved for 2 years before that. I was on sitting various boards and committees and being involved, coming to all the council meetings, reading the agendas, being all of that before I actually made the decision to run. So I'm running out of it here because I'm getting too passionate. I don't want to say anything I shouldn't say. Anyhow, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to everybody who's been here to offer up their vision for what they think we should have as a community. You know, when that referendum happened in our first election for 4 of us sitting here, the non-binding question wasn't really something that any of us were even aware of until we hit the polls ourselves, quite possibly. It was meant to be, from my understanding and my learning since, a pulse check. But when, I guess, 4,000 people who voted in a town of that time was 14,000 and change, to me wasn't an accurate depiction for the families that would have voted in this. Myself, 17 years ago, I drove my son to Okotoks because the pool here did not fit our needs as a family. 17 years ago. How many other parents have had to do the same for the service of their children? I would argue quite a few. So we were in a position, and we were 3 years getting to this point to make this decision to go ahead. But I would argue it's actually been a lot longer because the previous council was ill-prepared to make that decision 3 years ago, and so put this question forward for this council to make the decision, popular or unwise, otherwise. But we have gone through town halls, design process, open houses, public meetings. We've also had coffee with council, hosted several of them, I would say once a month since the first 6 months that we took office. And everybody and anybody is welcome to come anytime. Perhaps you don't like the answer that you get when you're asking us about something that is outside of our jurisdiction, because that's happened a few times. We don't make decisions about biodigesters in the county. That's not our role. We can support, we can help, we can try. That's our role when it comes to outside of our jurisdiction. So the petition to me shows who doesn't want it, but it doesn't speak for those who do. And I would argue that the children in our community would really love to have a better forward-thinking facility to take us into the future. So here we are now. Accessing information is everyone's responsibility who wants to have it. Everybody's, mine included. And I would like to think that we have spent a lot of time as a council getting ourselves educated, taking the time to learn, taking the time to listen, and trying to figure out what we can afford in the best interests of our community as we go forward. I will not engage online. And for those that think that this was my supplemental income role, that is partly true because I cannot pay my mortgage on what I make in this role. So I work 2 jobs. Most of us here do, to be able to bring the services that we do to our community, which means probably between 45 to 60 hours a week, depending, for all of us at this table. Just to give you an idea. It took me 2 clicks on the Town of High River's website, highriver.ca, to find my phone number and email address for anybody who wants to use it. It's not hard to find us, folks. It really isn't. So I would encourage you that if you do wish to reach out to us and you do wish to talk to us, we're right here every second Monday. We're also available online, devices, however you like to reach us, but I will not reach out or connect in social media land, because that is an unhealthy place for me to be, and to see my children read the things that were written about us is really disgraceful for our community. If you can be anything, please be kind. Please address the issues, and please stay focused on the matter at hand. That would be my request of our public. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Kelly. Councillor Barton.
Thank you, Mayor. I echo everything that's been said here by the councillors today. We've spent a lot of time weeding through a lot of information to get to where we are today. Just as much as there is opposition that has been represented with, I guess, a petition that's come forward, I think it's also encouraging to know that there is a lot of people that have come forward for it. The one piece, though, that I do want to address is, it was from public comments, and I apologize, I can't remember your name. Risa Proc, is that about the communication piece. And I think the one thing is we are all easily accessible. It's, and some may have heard from more of us than others. I think one thing that we have taken the step is to, are we making Committee of the Whole live? So now Committee of the Whole is live, as of this meeting, I believe. So we had a discussion about it, and a lengthy discussion. We actually had somebody from the public comment on the fact that they wish they could see all the decisions and the discussions that go on in the Committee of the Whole. Everybody can come to the Committee of the Whole. Previous to this, they were not broadcast except for during COVID times, I think it was. Is that correct? And we've decided to bring it back so that you can actually see where the meat and potato discussions happen, right? Public, open, candid conversations happen. I apologize that those weren't on there prior to, but I think we've all seen the value now in having that on there. I talk a lot more in there than I do here, because here is really, it's just, we're doing a vote in the regular meeting, be honest with you. That's where we've discussed 98% of everything that we need to discuss is done in Committee of the Whole, and then in this one, we're just making a decision, or whoever, whatever we have to do at that particular time. So I just wanted to bring that forward, and just to reemphasize the point, I mean, I'm in support of the pool. And it's not just the pool. There's other pieces of expansion that are also part of that project. And I would hate for this to be tied up in some arguments that really are just valid discussions. We need to have the discussions. We were elected to make the decisions, and it is tough. It's tough, but I'm glad that I put my hand up to be a councillor, because I think myself and everybody here has put a lot of effort to make this community a better place. So that's it.
Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Lots has been said. Lots of councillors have kind of put their heart on their sleeve a little bit. We make decisions on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis that impact us all. I have yet to meet a councillor. I was elected first in 2016, and I have honestly yet to meet a councillor that I felt was self-serving in their interests. I just want that to go out into the public. We all have our opinions. We can all get very passionate about our positions. When it comes to the people that I've sat with in this council chamber, again, I can honestly say I don't think anybody ever had ill intent in what they were doing or were ill-guided in their methodology to get to a decision when they voted, whether that be yes or no. I think everybody that sat here has had great integrity. As of this pool expansion and what we've done there, I could kind of, well, let me go down it a little bit. We've invested in a curling rink. We invested in replacing the large ice slab. We've done a number of different things in that facility to be conscious of the spend that we are all contributing to the services of our community, meaning I'm a taxpayer just like you folks are. Just because I sit here and you elected me, I honor that and I appreciate that respect, and I try to do my best on a daily basis. But it's not something I take lightly in the sense of the finances that we put forward. So we've done a lot of improvements to that facility to carry it forward for a number of years. This was, for me, the pool expansion was kind of one of the last pieces to make it a viable facility for the next 40 or 50 years. I would love to have seating in our backyard, and there was lots of people in the last election that used that as some kind of a benchmark. At this point of our life as a community, not financially viable. Dreams are good to have, and maybe one day we'll have something like that. But right now, we have a facility that we wanted to prolong and to protect and to enhance so that it provided a community for those of us that live here right now, but for also those that are considering coming here. Okay, let's push that all aside and let's come to a point that Councillor Jones made, Section 254 of the MGA Act. We made a mistake, plain and simple. The MGA is biblical in proportion. I have tried to read it on several occasions. I can't say I have read it completely to cover in a sitting. I go back to it. I've read it in chunks. I've read it complete, but it's been in pieces through the years. That is not something that jumped out to me. It's one piece that's there. I regret that we missed that. I appreciate that Maureen brought that to our attention, or Maureen and your group. Definitely a miss on our part. I feel that us being able to sit here and say transparently, we made a miss, we want to rectify that. We've gone to the Minister of Municipal Affairs and said, hey, we didn't align this correctly. What do we do from here? We haven't had a response back yet. So from myself, I know, Councillor Jones already expressed her regrets. I do myself, and I believe the rest of council are regretful in that miss as well. It's not something that we can pride ourselves on as elected councillors or as administration. None of us like making a miss, but we aren't perfect. And it's a miss, and we'll rectify it. So thanks for letting me express some thoughts.
Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. And further to the others on council, the comments, thank you to everyone here for being the voice for the community. I honestly believe that each and every one of us took this role, put our hand up to be elected, hopefully, so we could also be the voice for the community. There's been a whole lot of things said, questioning the referendum, the financing. So many questions have come up. And just as each of you has asked questions of us and learned from those things, each and every one of us in this chairs, even the most seasoned, learn each and every time we take this seat, answer the phone, or pick up an email. There is always something to learn in the situation. Beyond that, it's also been acknowledged that it's assumed that we should be at a place or we should be more available. It's a very, very delicate thing to balance If this was my only position in life, it still would be a challenge to balance, because no two of us in this row are the same. We are equal, but we are not the same. And I share the same with everyone in the gallery. We are equal, but we are not the same. Therefore, you're going to get a variety of decisions. Councillor Kinghorn would have one opinion, Councillor Barton another. And that's why 15,000 different people checked off different boxes to get a diverse group of people to represent all of you collectively. Furthermore, it's very difficult to know whether you're to align with those are not in favor, still bringing very relevant information, or those that are in favor that aren't here. It is a very, very delicate balance to be effective in this role. With that being said, I'll leave you with communication and education. They never end. This is not the first time nor the last time we'll require a meeting like this. So going forward, keep the communication open and kind. Thank you.
Thanks to council. These are tough roles, and they've become significantly harder sitting in this seat than when I first started. There's no question. It is night and day, and it's extremely tough. But a little tip to future councils of High River and councils across anywhere: you want to make it tougher on yourself, hold a non-binding referendum. Don't do it. So we'll move on and we'll get into our regular business. First one from Diana, the sidewalk and pathway repair and inspection policy.
Afternoon, everyone. I'm actually here to present the sidewalk pathway inspection and repair policy. So the objective of this policy is to provide a clear understanding between administration and the public of the level of service to maintain the municipal sidewalk and pathway within our jurisdiction in an effective and efficient manner. Change of thought here. Whereby preventing accidents and injuries while acknowledging the limitation imposed by the physical and practical constraints that comes with this. Having a policy in place that helps identify and fix hazards promptly can prevent accidents and impose accessibility for everyone. This approach is important to promote inclusivity and being in compliance with the legal standards that are out there. This policy will also establish the structure for inspection and asset management to effectively assess priorities and plan budgets as well as repairs. Please note that this will have a annual budget impact for, as you can see in the policy here, document for Group A, which speaks to our downtown, school, and senior complex, as well as public facilities. I would also like to add that regular upkeep extend the lifespan of our sidewalks and pathway, saving money on repairs and preserving municipal resources. It also improves the look of our neighborhood and increase property value. Overall, creating and implementing this policy shows that municipalities' commitment to creating a safe and effective environment for all our residents. And with that, I will close and ask if you have any questions.
Thanks, Diana. Questions from council? Councillor Nychuk?
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Just a point of clarity in the brief leading into it, talks about annual inspection and repair, and then there was a, sorry, I'm just scrolling back to it. Then this errant and every 4 years. What does the 4 years mean? Establishes authority to undertake the repair and inspection annually and every 4 years. I'm just confused as to what the every 4 years means.
So we typically do a 4-year inspection where we go around and we assess all of our sidewalks in town, and we will take those data. Now with the asset management coming on board, we'll have a realistic approach as to how we will plan to do repairs within those areas.
So every 4 years is a real comprehensive go-through of everything.
Yes,
But on an annual basis, should we have an urgent repair that comes up, we take care of it. But we're constantly inspecting. It's just every 4 years we do something very intensive. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kinghorn?
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. Based on this policy, it looks like we're talking about the happy trails. One of the biggest problems with the happy trails we have is vegetation incursion coming up through the pavement and causing cracks, and then water can get down and damage it. I didn't see in here, maybe I might have missed it, but I didn't see any reference to how we're going to manage that part of it.
So we didn't put trails in this policy, just speaks to mostly just the pathways and sidewalks. This only speaks to concrete and asphalt repairs.
Well, it is asphalt where we have the problem, where the weeds will actually come up through the asphalt and create cracks.
Probably what I would have to say to that is the trails will have to take a different approach in assessing that one, because this only speaks to...
Okay, yeah, just so Darlene's aware, and we're starting to look at something. I know some of them over here are pretty bad, and half of our pathways, the one that goes along 12th from, I've talked to Chris about this before, from 12th all the way down to the Recplex, that whole strip has fallen apart, and it's mostly because of vegetation.
And maybe Public Works do have a different assessment approach for those.
Okay.
Okay.
If I could add something to that, on the vegetation aspect and root intrusions coming through our asphalt pathways, when they become, this policy is focused on trip hazards in certain heights, differential that will catch people's toes when they're walking or running or cycling. That's what the intent of this policy is, to identify the hazard, mitigate our legal responsibility from that perspective of having that hazard, and identify that on a list for repair in the future.
I challenge you to walk down that one without tripping.
I've been down that one, know exactly the one that you're talking about. So that's really the intent of the policy from that perspective, is to identify that hazard, making sure that people are aware of it. So that means you're going to see a lot of orange spray paint around town at times of the year, once we do that annual inspection, to highlight those hazards. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's not a hazard until it meets that certain threshold of, I think it's in the policy, 2 inches, if I'm correct, my memory serves me correct.
That's correct, 2 inches.
Yeah, 2-inch differentiation from the level surface before it becomes a trip hazard. So those minor ones, we may not see fixed, but it does mean that we probably have to also add to your pathway system an active crack sealing program.
Councillor Barton?
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for that presentation. I just noticed when Jamie was talking about pathways, I just happened to go to page 8 with the map, and I was just trying to figure out what the differentiation between trails, pathway, and sidewalk is. We actually have paved pathways, looks like our happy trails are green, and our concrete sidewalk is purple. So if this is just to do with sidewalks, we should try and maybe adjust that legend a little bit. We might just have to, I got a big echo here. The legend on that map, if you look at it, it just says paved pathway is marked as green.
Yeah.
And then the concrete is marked as purple. But you said this policy isn't to do with trails, but at the top of it, it says the policy is Where did I see it? The policy is to do sidewalks and pathways inspection. Do you see what I mean? Like the definition between whatever the three things are, pathways, trails, and sidewalks. Just need to clean it up a bit.
Yeah, this policy is focused on all hard surfaced, so
Okay.
asphalt and concrete.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
No further questions. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Nychuk that Council adopt the sidewalk and pathway repair and inspection policy POL 0089 as presented.
Happy to give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Questions? All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Diana. Renewal of lease agreement with LifeMark. Alicia?
Thank you. So this item today is for the renewal of the lease with LifeMark Health Corp for the 1,800 square foot physiotherapy space that they hold at the Bob Snodgrass Recreation Center. So there was one 5-year extension left to exercise in their current lease agreement. Loblaws reached out to renew that lease and requested an additional 5-year option to extend following this renewal period, which will take their lease to August 31st of 2034. The rental rates proposed for the next 5-year period were presented by Loblaws, and they were favorable to the town based on market research that was completed by our local assessor, as well as an external real estate agent. The lease rates see an annual 2% increase, and at the next renewal period, the lease rate for the years 6 through 10 would be negotiated at that time, based on the fair market rental rate for tenants of a similar size and scope. There were some other very minor adjustments made to the agreement terms that can be reviewed within your package, but nothing that impacts the lease as a whole. Any questions from council?
Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks, Mr. Snodgrass. Just for my own personal interest, Loblaws owns LifeMark?
They do.
Good for Mr. Weston.
Diversify. No further questions. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Kinghorn that administration enter into a new lease agreement with LifeMark Health Corp for the premise located at Unit 201-228 12th Avenue Southeast High River for the continued operation of health and wellness services with an annual rent increase of 2% for the next 5 years, with one option to extend for an additional 5 years, with the annual rent to be negotiated based upon the fair market rental rate for that extended term period. And the council authorizes the mayor and CAO to execute the lease agreement on the above noted terms and conditions.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. You have my motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alicia. Plug-in electric vehicle charging stations. Riley?
Good afternoon, Council. So following the 2013 flood, we did quite a bit of work with the downtown revitalization. As part of that revitalization project, we installed 2 electric car chargers in the museum parking lot beside service. These chargers were primarily an economic development tool to encourage people to visit our community and our downtown. The chargers have not fulfilled their original intent, being primarily used by local users and have a cost of upwards of $7,000 per year in electrical costs alone, plus any maintenance we may have on top of that. The electrical cost is broken down in your package, but it is primarily fixed charges with only about $1,100 to $1,200 in variable costs. In your package is a number of options, so we could convert the 2 parking spots with chargers into timed parking stalls to encourage turnover. We can install pay chargers because the chargers are currently unable to take credit card payment, but that has a significant cost to replace the chargers. We could implement a pay charge for parking. So basically, you have to pay for hours that you're parked there. But again, not a cost-effective solution. We could remove these with chargers of our choice through attrition. One charger has already failed and has been replaced, so they do have a finite life. And then as they fail, we could replace them with pay chargers, or we could remove them altogether and just return the stalls back to pay parking, or sorry, regular parking. Administration's recommending just to remove the chargers. There's a significant cost when you look at power, and they're not meeting their original intent. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Riley. Councillor Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm curious, do we remember what the initial expense was for installing them? No? How long have they been there?
If I had to guess, 2015-ish.
Okay. And have we done an analysis on what we could stand to charge so that we would have an understanding of what we could recoup?
No.
No.
No. We saw the power costs and didn't feel that was recoverable, and left it at that.
I see. Okay, thank you.
And those things were installed after the flood through a grant that we got from somebody to put those in, did we not?
That's correct. Yeah, I think they were through one of the flood grants. I actually was the one who installed them, so. It was a significant charge because we had to bring the power in and do the conduits and everything like that.
That was when we had all the streets tore up downtown, that it was.
Correct. There was also the clock tower was in play as well. So the meter was supposed to service the chargers and the clock tower, but the clock tower never proceeded.
Right. Okay. Sorry, Riley, you might have mentioned it while I was looking for it, but cost to remove?
Oh, it would be minimal. We'd have an electrician do the disconnect, and then our staff would cart away the whatever's left over. I don't know if I actually had it in the report.
I'm personally stuck on this one because it's, you know, the power costs of only $7 or $8 grand, but you know, and then to go through it and remove these things, I don't know. I wish there was an easier way to just make them charge stations, but I'm also not in favor of any of us paying any amount of somebody's fuel. When I see $100,000 Teslas parked into the thing, plugged into the thing all day, it's a bit
the same one every day.
Hey?
The same one every day.
Yeah, it's the same ones every day, right? And there's a couple of them I know, and they make a hell of a lot more money than I do. So we're charging their cars for them. So go ahead.
Just to add, the one thing to note with both the pay chargers and the pay parking, there's certain thresholds or base costs that the providers require.
So
and without the volume or a higher number of stalls, it's almost to the point where, geez, any revenue we recover is just going to go to the provider.
You're paying in user fees of some kind.
Yeah, like I think it was the pay charger is $700 a year for pay services, and the pay parking was similar. I think it was a monthly fee on that. Well, $250 a month. So I mean, when you look at those costs, are we even going to charge enough to be able to recover some of that base payment fee, and then we're still paying for the power on top of it?
Okay. Councillor Barton?
Thank you, Mayor. Do we know, is there any way to determine how many minutes they were used per year or charged or anything? The only reason I ask is because I just reached out to Country Chrysler has a flow unit there, and I just said, what do you retain on does it cost? Like, what do they get? And it goes 40 cents per minute is what they, so 40 cents for every minute that car is sitting there. Or charging, I guess, not sitting there. With the Tesla in High River, it could be, man, we can make money. We're charging 40 cents because it sits there all day. Anyways, I just thought I'd mention that because that's a new charger and it's a paid charger in town. Maybe we don't need to have it in, but maybe that's food for thought, right? Is to have, that's what the market is right now, 40 cents per minute. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Nychuk.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. If we terminate the service, the power is always going to be there, right?
Correct. We'd pull the meter
we're
though
not-
to
we're not-
stop the
yeah, we're not-
charges, but we could always rehook it up later.
So if Mr. Musk decided he wanted to put 2 Tesla chargers there, we could provide him a space and he could run his own equipment. What I'm getting at is I'd rather put this to private business than us run a business of charging stations. Right now, we've been just giving it away for free. We have 1 charger that's broken. Is that correct? Is that what I read?
We replaced it. So it broke, I think, in the spring.
Oh, so both of them are functioning.
Both of them are functioning right now.
But yeah, I haven't been in favor of this giving away free fuel to people since its inception. So I'm voting in terms of pulling them out. And if somebody privately, as a business, wants to come and utilize that spot and pay us a lease for that space and run a charger from it, then I'd consider supporting that in the future. But right now, I would just like to see them gone.
Councillor Kinghorn.
Thanks, Mayor Snodgrass. Al, if you're watching, this is one of the emails we get fairly regularly. I'm with the rest of council, but is there an opportunity, like if we pull these things out, I'd hate to see them just get stashed in our stash over there. Do you think there's an opportunity for some of the other strip malls, maybe the one up by Esso or somewhere else might want them where they'd put in power to service their clients up there or something, not where we're on the hook instead of just dumping them off in our yard over there?
We can definitely look at disposal of the units. We've had some luck with putting things on marketplace rather than going to auction and getting a bit better dollar, but yeah, we can definitely look at.
Yeah, my suggestion is we go over to the mall over there and say, hey, we've got these.
Oh, to offer them up.
Yeah, to there or to the one, out by Co-op or whoever. I mean, chances are pretty slim somebody's going to take you up on it, but I mean, it's better than us.
I guess we can post, we do have an obligation through our disposal policy to post it. We can make them aware of the posting.
Thank you.
No further questions. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Walsh that Council direct administration to remove the chargers and associated signage and de-energize the power meters.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll give you that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Riley.
Thank you.
Strategic priorities chart, quarterly update, Chris.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. So as council recalls, we had our strategic quarterly update on September 16th of this year. Every year we try and meet 4 times to go through our priority chart as well as the organizational priority chart. So the recommendation before you today is to update the top 5 of council's strategic priorities by removing 2 priorities that are in essence substantially complete. From a council perspective, that would include the town plan as well as the aquatics expansion. Town plan is nearing adoption with we're waiting on CMRB approval, and when it comes to council is basically moving forward with adoption from that perspective. The aquatics facility is under construction, and council's working through no longer involved in the construction phase process of that project. They will be replaced with the following 2 priorities from the next list. Skate park, concept development and engagement. We've engaged a contractor already, and we're having a public engagement session later this month with user groups at the BSRC on October 24th, and moving forward with developing that concept. Now, the concept development will allow us to create a package that we can go after grant funding with other, through federal programs as well as fundraising within the community if the user group wishes to pursue that. Now, our skateboard park was built in 2000, so it is 24 years old. It is showing some age, but there are some components that are savable and salvageable, and we're working with the concept to try and integrate those in from that perspective. So whatever we can save, we're going to be doing our darndest to try and save that and integrate it into any revised concept design that we see for that skate park. As far as the recycling and composting program, it's developing the work program coming back to council in January to outline the steps and stages of what we want to undertake as a community when it comes to recycling and composting. This could be exploring the feasibility of curbside recycling and composting. It could be expanding our partnerships. It may even take a look at our solid waste management piece as well. But it's taking a look at all those details and bringing that forward with a work program that council starts working on and taking a look at and engaging the community on what their needs and wants may be. So based upon that, those two priorities are now on the list, on the top 5. The other ones have also changed. The Town Farm outdoor rink is moving into construction phase. It will be constructed in March of 2025, starting in March of 2025. We've engaged a contractor through who completed our large slab project that has worked through a negotiated change order process to see that constructed into a full sport court kind of concept. And then the other one is our 112th ASP process. Council awarded at the last council meeting to Tetra Tech. We're in the process of finalizing all the agreements, the cost sharing agreements with those homeowners out there, and looking at kicking off the engagement later in November with completion of the first phase of engagement for end of January, early February. Then the water strategy, as council awares, we're working on the scope for that aspect of things, but we still have a little bit of a wild card because we are working with Nanton. Nanton's been successful in seeking a grant to look at the feasibility analysis of connecting to our water system. They have just gone through the RFP process on project management and will be looking at the capacity of the aquifer within town. So they'll be taking forward quite a bit of work that we were scheduling to work on as part of our water strategy. They'll be doing quite a bit of that work within the grant program. And so we'll get a better understanding. We may have to add some dollars to that, but we need to understand that scope of work from what that Nanton will be completing and then adding on what we need to see completed as well. So that's the update on the top 5. It reduces the number on the next. We have not added anything onto the next list. And so we've reduced that from 10 to about 7, which is nice to see. And we've also made some changes within our organizational priorities as well, as we've made progress on a division-by-division basis too on work that's being undertaken. Based upon that, council has 3 options in front of them. 1, to adopt the resolution as presented. 2, to not proceed with adopting this updated chart and sending it back to a strategic meeting of council for further discussion. Or to refer this to COW for further discussion as well in an open public meeting. So those are the 3 options that's before council, and that's the rationale for the recommendation. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Councillor Jones.
Thank you, Mayor Snodgrass. I do have a question about the Town Farm outdoor rink, as slated says, or what's under their construction. We haven't actually seen a full design, so my concern about saying that without actually having seen or shown our town what a design might look like before we say that it's under construction.
Yeah. Well, certainly, it's a design-build approach. We're engaged a contractor that has builds outdoor rinks across the province, and so we can certainly present examples. But when we first started this project, we took a look at the entire site planning of the Town Farm site to whether or not we could move the rink somewhere else. How can we place more amenities within that space? And it became clear once we started walking the site that with underground pipes within that space, the location of the community garden, as well as proximity to neighbors, that the outdoor rink has to stay where it is. And so going through a site planning exercise at that point didn't seem like a moot point, and just moving into negotiating a contract to engage the change order contract approach with Brysand, who specializes in rinks, to build something for that perspective. So part of our strategy this winter is I'm working with some of the neighbors around there to kind of engage them, let them know that it's coming, and showing what it's going to look like. Because it will be substantially different, because it will be a concrete surface. It will have puck board and full-size boards around it. It will have chain link that will act like glass so that pucks will stay within the space. And we'll have sleeves for basketball hoops as well. So it'll allow the removal of the basketball court that's in the parking lot right now to move into the sport court. So in the summer months now, instead of just being a grass field, it can be used for ball hockey, lacrosse, even soccer if they're satisfied with the concrete surface. Plus, it can be used for basketball sports as well. So multiple ball sports. But we're waiting on some of the design drawings from the contractor of what they built elsewhere, because it is a design build based upon the conditions.
Thank you. For sure, I'd like to see some consultation, especially with those people that were very interested in that area, and what that's going to look like.
Thank you.
No further questions. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Smith that Council adopt the updated strategic priorities chart as presented.
I'll give you that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Councillor reports. Anything? I just have one, and going back into the end of September with everything that happened that our favorite weekend of the year, I want to thank Roger Hamill and CDI Trucking. I want to thank Wes Shaw and Shawnee Excavating for the burnout they had Saturday afternoon. I want to thank Tracy Cuff and the River City Car Classics group that put on the Brian Chip Chase Memorial Car Show. That was an amazing success and one of our best years ever. And then I also want to thank, and I don't know who to truly thank with this, not you're shaking your head, but you started it, so you're going to eat it. Councillor Kinghorn and his committee with the Heritage International Balloon Festival. Just an amazing event that this has turned into over the last 11 years, and this GLOW event is taken off, and like we were discussing earlier that if the weather's crappy, we don't get anybody out, which is understandable, but when it's good like we had it this year, it is awesome to see the amount of people that thing draws into this community, and both the car show and the balloons. But that GLOW night is an amazing thing. You guys did an amazing job, and thanks to all the pilots for bringing their balloons and setting them up for those evenings. And it's fun for adults, but it's mind-blowing for the kids, and that's a huge piece for me, of course, because I got my kids to bed at about 2 o'clock in the morning after they came down from their mini donuts and Kona ice snow cones. So, but thank you very much for everything you guys do for that, Jamie. And as well, none of it happens without an enormous amount of volunteer effort that comes out of our whole community to put all these events on in the fall, because it was an amazing weekend, and thanks to everybody. So, Councillor Kinghorn.
Thanks for the kind words, Mayor Snodgrass. It takes a big team of people, and most of our team is from High River, and they're volunteers to step forward and put this thing together. I also want to thank administration and the town emergency services people that were out to help us and made it work as well as it did. They did an amazing job with us this year. Not that they didn't do it last year, but this year was even better with the larger crowds. So thank you to administration and to all the emergency services people that were on site and helped make this work. The garbage cans are greatly appreciated, but we'll be looking for more next year.
Board and committee reports, anybody? So we'll move into our second section for public comments, if there's anybody that wishes to share anything. See none. Council correspondence requiring action. Municipal displays of respect and support request for Family Violence Prevention Month. Our annual piece. Make sure it ends there. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Barton that Council proclaim November 1st to 31st, 2024 as Family Violence Prevention Month, and Council authorize Rowan House to tie purple ribbons on light poles along McLeod Trail on November 1st to 24th and remove them November 30th, 2024. And further, that Council authorize the Mayor to sign the Family Violence Prevention Month proclamation.
You have my motion, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Month. I'll ask for a motion from Councillor Jones that Council proclaim November 1st to November 31st, 2024 as Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Month, and Council authorize the administration building be illuminated purple on November 1st, 2024 in recognition and support of Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Month.
I'll give you that motion, Mayor Snodgrass.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried. Nothing further. Meeting adjourned 4:26 p.m. Thank you.